Welcome back to the European Challenger Series Summer Qualifiers. I'm tagging in onto the caster desk with James Stress O'Leary to join you for the second best of 5 on the day as the teams fight down to lock the very last EU CS slot.
And we just saw the first slot go. Misfits took it 3-1 in that series. Spoilers, sorry if you didn't see it. You'll be able to catch the VODs, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if you're just tuning in now because that was a sick best of 5. But as the teams gear up for the series ahead of us, let's take a final look at their starting lineup. So on the blue side, it is Team Forge with Mimic in the top lane, Taiki in the jungle, Jizuki in that mid lane with Gap and Hiva fielding the bottom lane.
And what to say about 4G? Well, I think we should start, honestly, with the fact that they have had some really dominant games. Some games they've looked super good. I mean, some of the performances with the partnership between Taiki and Jizuki, they've had the Morgana, the Elise picking people off and really been getting themselves into fights. This game was one of Jizuki's Morgana games, and then we are going to end up seeing some of the more team fight focused games as well, but 4G have been looking good. Yeah,
for sure. Jizuki, one of the standout players on the team for sure. Doubted the Morgana mid, then did really well. Doubted the Vladimir, did really well. But it's not just him on the lineup as well, because Hiva came in after not being in the lineup for the first 2 games, and then once he joined the game, they went from being a slow team who likes to go late game to a fast team who likes to go late game. But they actually get those engagers up, like you can see here on the Alistair. Hiva will just go in time and time again and make sure he gets the engager for the team, which really accelerates the pace of the game.
And then, oh, what's that? The Vlad cleanup, almost unkillable in the fight. I mean, wow. I've enjoyed watching 4G and some of the things that they've done, but they've been a little more unorthodox throughout the pick and ban phase when you look at their mid picks, more so than other teams. They're not really the kind of team that's just like, you know, Victor will do. They've played, you know, a big variance, and I quite like that.
Yeah, I like the Morgana, I like the Vladimir. I want to see more of those picks because the Vladimir is actually really good, as we've been seeing in this tournament and also in other regions, as they also get onto the new patch of 6.10. But let's take a look at their opponents in this best of 5 today. It will be SK Gaming with Ruin in the top lane, Caesar in the jungle role, with Suno in the mid lane, and Vardags on Unlimited in the bot lane.
This team, I think the big surprise for me has been just how good Ruin has looked. And some people are saying, you know, Ruin, he's a bit 50-50.
Sure.
You can be too aggressive, but honestly, he's turned around so many team fights for SK. When you look at some of his plays, some small skirmishes as well, we figured we'd take a little bit of 50-50 on some of the footage we played of him. Some good stuff, some bad stuff. So it's like, oh, Ruin's not even here yet. Oh, wait, he comes in and picks up a double kill from this. So, you know, I've been impressed by his Gnar and his Poppy on the most part. So there's always room for a little bit of a fail play. He actually gets that kill, by the way.
Yeah, sure. Cut the tape. But yeah, I believe he got the double from that one. But as a player, I think he kind of reflects the team. And I think as the tournament's gone on, he's become less 50-50 and more like 70-30. There's still a 30% plays where it's just like, well, maybe he shouldn't have got in there. But the rest of the team picks up the slack. And yes, they make the risk, but they're a very interesting team to watch in that sense. And they managed to get to the finals, so clearly something worked.
Well, something worked, and a lot of it was their team fighting that they've been playing. I know you yourself, you love seeing the different picks, the different 80 carries come out, and Vardak's certainly been playing that Misfortune, and I'm like, oh, I don't think it works amazingly well, and then they team fight with it. Ruin gets like a 5-man Gnar ult, and suddenly
I'm convinced.
Suddenly it's like, well, I guess I can't really argue with that anymore.
Exactly, and they also had the Taric in the bottom lane with Unlimited, and it was actually specifically that duo, where it's just hit R and just hope for the best, and most of the time it worked out, because Ruin was already there landing big ultimates with Gnar or Poppy, and then you just had Misfortune layering on the damage on top of it. So
press R comps. I mean, they shouldn't work, but they do. And they work when the ultimates are available, which is a good thing, I guess, for SK. They have that option. Nice to have that in the back pocket as well. Honestly, though, we hadn't expected SK to get to this point. When we looked at the lineups, you know, looking down the rosters, we were like, well, how do we expect SK to fare against some of the other bottom lanes? Sure. You know, we've heard so much about Rhea.
The Danish shrimp.
Every time I butcher that name, Danish shrimp. So much about players like him here in Challenger Series. It was like, man, I don't know whether they can take a 2v2. Maybe they can't really lane swap, because we saw examples in the regular split of SK not really succeeding at both.
Yeah.
And then they surprise us by the fact that they've got a very solid top laner. Their bottom lane has been better than we've seen from them in the regular split. So they've actually surprised me in a good way getting to this point.
Yeah.
which, you know, I guess that's why expectations go to the window. Low priority and kick don't even make it here. So
that's true. I mean, it was really that final day which shook everything up because LP were one win away from just locking in first place.
Kick.
I know, and so a kick as well. It was literally just that last day just was crazy. But yeah, I agree. The bottom lane, I don't think has been standout, but they also got overshadowed by top lane, by mid lane, also by jungle. And also, they haven't gone horrifically behind, which was one of the problems they had when we last saw them. So as long as they can go even and just click R when they get to team fights, then it worked out.
And you mentioned jungle. Cesar has been one of the picks that we weren't players that we weren't really sure what to make of. Haven't seen too much from Cesar before, and we were like, well, you know, he's a bit young. When it comes to professional scene, how much is he really going to be able to do? And he's held his own for the most part against a lot of junglers. And I think Taiki, the partnership that Taiki and Jizuki on the other side have had now is a bit of a test for Cesar. Cesar and Suno, see how they can cope with that.
I haven't really seen Cesar have that duo lane kind of relationship with Suno or Ruin as much. But yeah, Taiki and Jizuki have been wrecking some faces. So we'll see what they pick up for this champion select. Will be the Azir as the first ban. Not too surprising. He did manage to slip through in the very first game of today. Up until that point, he was 100% pick ban. On the opposite side, going to be banning away the Alistar towards Hiva. Vedius is actually talking with me and says, like, maybe at some point someone will start banning away Hiva's Alistar. I like the adaptation because he was getting most of his engages with that pick, so now he has to do something a little bit different, and no one quite engages like an Alistar WQing you in the face.
That is true. Only Malphite.
Only Malphite.
That's what we call Alistar, the ghetto Malphite.
The mini Malphite,
right?
yeah.
You gotta like tie two things together.
Maybe he'll go Malphite support.
2 AD carry bans. One you would expect on the Lucian. The second one is because we're playing against SK right now. So Misfortune, not a champion I thought I would see banned, but is off the table for this game. Where does that leave us on first pick? Ryze is available. That is the pick right now when you look at it. What has been super highly picked throughout this tournament. I would expect that probably to be the first pick here.
We've also seen teams being baited into picking Ryze and also some of the power picks when teams have left everything open. It's just like, hey, well, how about you go for this juicy composition? And it's just like, you don't know how to play it. And then they kill them that way.
So at this point, Trundle will come out, and I would expect with a Kindred ban and a Nidalee ban that we'll be looking at either the Elise or the Graves pick up here. Whichever jungler it is that Cesar feels like is going to be his strongest point. With the 2 bans, first pick's gone past. Pick up that jungle, get that matchup for yourself. And we've spoken time and time again about how important being able to flex on the red side is. Trundle fits that perfectly right now. That would be what I would expect to be the 1-2. But I quite like this Ryze coming out from 4G. Yes, they have the ability to put it top lane if they really wanted to. I think this is going mid, though, for Jizuki.
I think so, too.
Top lane Ryze hasn't exactly had the best showing this tournament.
No, it hasn't. And Mimic doesn't necessarily strike me as the type of player to pick him up. Whereas Jizuki, where I have a lot of faith in Jizuki currently, feels like he could do some damage with that pick. So on the opposite side, the Trundle's already been logged in. There's a first rotation Victor as well. So that's interesting. Actually keeping, some of their cards to their chest, but also not prioritizing a jungle pick. And there's still Elise, Kindra's gone, Graves. Yeah, those 2 picks.
So that obviously tells you, okay, so in this situation, I don't know why you'd rush for the Victor unless you were worried about them going Ryze Victor as their duo lanes and just locking it, in which case you don't really feel too bothered about getting the counter pick last on top lane unless you're very bothered about the 2v2. There's a lot of like different setups here as you go through the pathing. So what that does tell you though is they want, in their minds, the stronger mid lane blind pick and just go, I don't care whether you play Ryze top lane. If you do play it mid, we're fine, we got the Victor. If you play it top, we got the counter pick.
Sure. Well, that will be the Elise jungle, so Taiki gets the jungler of choice. And that will be the Braum as well for Hiva. So generally his default, if he can't get Alistar, is go for another melee tanky support. He likes those tanky supports right now. Of course, doesn't have the same engage potential as Alistar, but still can be aggressive in lane. Can also go in for disengages or a good follow-up with Glacial Fissure. But it's harder to initiate with that ultimate because you see it coming towards you at literally a Glacier's pace. And it's just like, sidestep.
Yeah, that's the ease of sidestepping it. So I'm looking at exactly where SK go from here. Are they going to run kind of the run at you style composition that we've seen before? Maybe even tie in a lower aggressive jungler? I don't know whether, in fact, for SK, have they played the Gragas? No, it's been Elise, Nidalee, Rek'Sai for Caesar. So it looks like we're getting a new pick either way out of this. With the Civic, get themselves a little bit of engage when it comes to their movement speed boost.
Sure.
No real engaged champion yet. I guess that's going to come from the top lane as it is.
Yeah, I mean, they have the Trundle there, and maybe they can pit like an engaged support or top laner, or flex obviously the Trundle to bot lane. I think it'd be easier to flex the Trundle to bot lane and then have find an engaged top lane because it's more open right now in terms of the pool. On the opposite side, Team Forge waiting for their 2 final picks. What do they need to pick up? They need a top laner, and they need a
AD carry.
AD carry.
Would be the other option that we're looking for. So Sivir locked in. Ezreal would be the one that I'm like, well, they're probably just going to sit back with Ezreal Braum and pretty much never die. We have seen a couple of Caitlyn's. I don't really think that is going to be exactly the pickup here. I mean, yes, you do have lane dominance, but at the same time, it's not a champion we've seen Gap play yet. He's played 2 on Sivir, 2 on Lucian, and he did actually play that game on Draven.
He did.
I think we're probably going to see the Ezreal, but he's hovering
He lost the game on Draven, to my memory.
Yes, into a Caitlyn, wasn't it? Because he just got harassed down.
That's correct, but he's locked in the Draven.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember joking because he managed to get that cash in of like 600 gold and then promptly lost the game after that. So
that's exactly what happened in that game. Okay, so the Draven, we've seen 1 game from Gap. I wasn't overly impressed by his Draven play.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Yeah. I remember because I was like, maybe he's going to be in the Hall of Fame with the great Draven players. No, not in that game. Maybe he can show it again today because clearly they have faith in it since it lost and then they want to pick it again.
Poppy also locked in now for the top lane, so now Ruin can decide whether he wants to take the Trundle into Poppy matchup. We've seen that time and time again. With all of the nerfs, the tweaks, it tends to be somewhat even matchup until that Subjugate comes out and you can't QSS it anymore.
That's a hard sentence to say,
actually. Later on. So maybe we'll see that top lane, as you alluded to, could very well be the flex to bottom lane. That looks like what we're getting. There's that engage potential. Sivir Maokai Pulse. Sivir Maokai. I love this composition.
It's so easy. Pop the R on Vardag's ultimate and then have Maokai just run at them, and then there's your engage.
And I like the Maokai pick not only for the engage potential now as well, but the Draven will likely build that Ghostblade Black Cleaver build, which is not great at dealing with super tanks. So unless Gap gets super far ahead in this game, they're going to have a problem dealing with this Maokai the later it goes. On the side of 4G, they've got decent pick potential and small number skirmishes with the Rise, the Elise, the Poppy, single target damage, and then some disengage coming through from Heiva as well. But it's disengage, it's not engage from Heiva. You can engage with Braum. I mean, we've seen attempts
at that before. Do you remember that bot lane play where we had the Braum and he just walked out a bush and and it's just like,
I know exactly the play you're talking about. I remember replaying that one time and time again.
Yes, that was pretty funny. But it's a lot harder to engage as Braum is the point we're trying to get at. But looking at these skirmishes fights as well from Team Forge, we've had compositions from them before where it's just like, I'm not really sure how this is going to work in the mid game, and somehow they just miraculously find these skirmishes regardless. So the team knows how to set up the plays in advance to try and find those fights, which might be what they need in this game up against SK Gaming, because I mean, if they just group as 5, what are you going to do against a Maokai, a solid backline, a crit ADC with Victor, who's just going to be popping all with Graves as well? I mean, this is just a quintessential team fight composition right here.
That's just, you pop that Sivir ultimate and just go. And one person's getting locked down
all the
from
buttons.
There, a team fight starts, and you basically just win it. So unless 4G can get a couple of picks early on, this could be a tough one for them. But certainly they do have Rise to supplement that later game.
Just looking at the keystones there, I don't think we have anything out of the ordinary. Gap's going to go for the Fervor of Battle if you're interested. Draven players out of there. Because I know a while back, some Draven players like to pick up the Thunderlords, actually, when all the mastery changes came out. Of course, you wouldn't know a lot of that because we never really saw Draven in competitive. But
that's a very Draven player thing to do. Yeah, right? It's like, hey, if this helps me win at level 1, I basically have won this lane.
It's also the nature of the beast, because he builds more AD versus crit than other ADCs, then you benefit more from the Thunderlord because it scales from the raw AD you're getting. We've also seen Dravens recently go for the Ghostblade into Black Cleaver build, very similar to Lucian. So it just allows him to stack up those stacks with his abilities, because some of them either come out very fast or swing twice like his ultimate.
And I feel like it's far less punishing, that build on Lucian, just because Draven himself requires more gold generation than picking up kills as it is in the game. So for Lucian, if you fall slightly behind and you're still on that build, you still have those very economic back timings, you still have fair amounts of damage in your kit. Your ultimate is basically used for wave clear. You can use Dravens for it, but because there's an execute on the end of it, realistically, so much of that damage comes from hitting like low health targets with it.
That is the problem. That is the problem.
But then that's the eternal Draven struggle, right?
Of course. I mean, you have to get a kill early. You have to get a kill like in mid game. You need to get those cash-ins. And the reason why we only see very few Draven players in the first place is, well, I'm going to hold that for a second, because Vardex has stepped up to the minion wave. And a Heaver and Gap are in the back. He was just going to waddle towards it. Ignite comes down. The Q comes out. It's going to be instantly spell shielded.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why Braum finds it hard to engage.
So, there is also a different way that could have gone. If 4G wanted to all in with the Ignite, they still, by the way, get the advantage from the laning phase here. I don't know whether it's going to translate fully into an advantage. If they wanted to look for the kill with the Ignite here, Heaver should flash auto into the Q, because at that point the spell shield is so much more difficult to actually time, and you've got two things that are about to try and apply the passive. From there, the autos from Draven would be able to lock them down.
Correct.
Yes, you've now forced Sivir to take Spell Shield level 1, and you've put some damage down. You get the level 2 early, but as soon as this resets and Sivir gets this farm under the turret, as long as SK don't mess this up too badly,
that's nice.
That was nice. So they should be able to kind of turn this back around. But still, nice attempt by 4G, but I think they could have done it way better.
I'm also surprised by Heaver, because he's the type of player who will flash after you if he has the opportunity, and even trading flash in that situation is fine. Taking away the ADC's flash in these non-standard lanes, in these, or standard lanes, but Australia lanes, and then setting up for a Taiki gank, for example, because you do have an early pressure jungler. You have Elise, so you could maybe capitalize on that.
Yeah.
But Heaver instead is going to go with the approach and keep his flash and just laugh at his opponents instead.
Oh, Vardex, this is really punishing.
Never mind. They just kind of won the laning right there.
So that was a horrible trade overall for Vardex, because not only did he screw up a couple of CS with the tower hitting it and just things going on in the lane, he then loses a bunch of health, didn't get the cannon because the Braum shield went up to block. Like, everything 4G did right there is so infuriating to try and catch back up. And look at it, already a 10 CS lead right now. There's a couple in the wave, but Gap is standing there laughing, spinning axes at him.
Yeah, both of them are. Oh, man.
Honestly, like, I don't want to write this off before we're too far into the series, because we've seen a lot better from SK, but this is the kind of thing that was happening to SK in the regular split, in the 2 versus 2. And this was why we were a little worried about how SK would do in the tournament. This is only game 1. There is still time to recover.
But that's a very valid point. I mean, traditionally, Challenger, in LCS, you've got the Danish mid laners and EU mids and all that, but in Challenger, we've often seen really good bot lanes. Like, think back to Hansam and Masterwork, and it was a difficult environment if you had a weaker bot lane. And SK kind of had to roll with the punches on that one, and in this laning phase, already getting pushed in, almost looking at a double CS advantage for Gap and Heaver at 4 minutes into the game.
So difficult for Vardex and Unlimited right now, and I criticized the execution on the early play. It has now transcended the first few minutes into a bigger lead here, so it actually wasn't that big of a deal that it didn't convert into a bigger lead, like a summoner used or a kill. Heaver's Ignite is about to come back up, so it certainly worked trumps to them.
They're also a potion up on their opponent as well, which is massive, because you may think Vardex is the same health than Gap, but in reality in this laning phase he is not.
Yeah. Vardex, I mean, at this point, so difficult to deal with, because Sivir as well, as we discussed, kind of is going to have less economic back timings. You want to sit until you get that BF sword. Draven at any point can recall if he's going Ghostblade first and just start picking up long swords. Get like the serrated Dirk, the Warhammer, like any combination of like those 350 swords and just put them together. You don't even need
to think about your gold total. You just back whenever you want to, and you're going to get a good buy.
Click long swords, then click one ward and keep clicking potions until you're out.
It's like the game 2048 where you just keep combining stuff into more items. That's Draven and Lucian's back currently.
Yep, pretty much.
Well, says he's going to go back into his jungle. He's still farming. Actually, both junglers have just been farming in the early game. That's all they've really been doing. Going to be prioritizing the crabs now and putting down some pink wards just going to see Cesar, or rather Taiki, just come out around this ward. But because he's taken that away, clearly there must be a pink in the Pixel Brush. But he's also going to take away this pink as well in the side of Cesar's jungle, looking for that first recall, or the second recall of the game. They have already gone back. But the junglers haven't really had much interaction, and we haven't really spoken about the other lanes either. So Jizuki up against Suno. Rise is just going to try and survive and farm up his tier. He's already picked that one up and looking towards his Catalyst, the core of Rise, and then he'll try to activate later. Still actually got a farm advantage, so must have been some pushing stuff going on in the mid lane. Bottom lane, which is now the 1v1 lane, currently even in farm, so Maokai's actually having a pretty decent day.
Yeah, hasn't been pushed out too much. There was a moment where Cesar was looking to go to the bottom lane, and it did mean that the Mimic had to pull back slightly, you know, reassess exactly the situation. So Ocean Drake is the first one. It's one of the easier ones for an Elise to just go, okay, I'll take this. Elise obviously can balance the Spiderlings. Ocean Drake doesn't have particularly high defenses, doesn't have super high damage done either, so you can just sit there and have a little bit of help, and it all works out. Ocean Drake probably number 3 on the tier list of importance.
Yeah.
So it's a nice prize to have at this point. Nice to have that opening for Taiki. Generally, you wouldn't expect it to be taken by an Elise like early on, but if you don't have wards down, she can just swing down there, take it out.
Also means it gets the ball rolling on dragons early, so when players and teams take those sequentially, you'll have more dragons to buff it with Elder Dragon.
Yep.
You can see the classic lane trade where you're just trying to get that buckler down. Hiva going to follow up into Vardags once again. Gap not quite in range to capitalize with the auto attacks. And Rune's actually getting a very beneficial trade onto Mimic in this lane. And he's trading in minions, so Mimic is just not going to get the advantage here. You can see he's already getting burnt out by these caster minions. Even at level 7, caster minions hurt a lot, so you have to be aware when you're going for a 1v1, even in tank matchups, because just a small mistake will push it either way.
So, interesting on the top side, or what should be the duo lane. 73 CS 46, so continued that expansion. I feel like the items, you could flip them, and I would say that they would be like expected, because so it's not too unexpected that Draven does go BF Sword, but we were expecting the Black Cleaver Ghostblade build, so whether he's building the actual crit build now, or the very, very old flat damage from like Bloodthirster, which I don't expect quite so much. I guess this is Gap recalling, going, well, we've got a lane advantage. What's better than having a small lane advantage? Let's just get further ahead on that advantage and get a whole bunch of damage, and then Sivir's not going to be able to do anything until she's 3 items, so there certainly is, you know, some basis into why you would want to go BF Sword on this. Just keep chunking Sivir with those auto attacks and be like, just trade.
It's lane dominance now, and I think he's fine with that. It's just funny because Gap actually went for the other build last time we saw him, so...
Yeah, he did, and now if this does translate into a full crit build, it will also give him beneficial... you know, fighting potential compared to if he had gone Ghostblade against the Maokai later into the game.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the route he's going as well. Just wants to be able to deal with the super tank.
Maybe. I mean, 4G are going to come up here for this...
4G or 4-man?
4-man gank into the top lane. Vardags Unlimited just going to pop the ultimate on the hunt. Is more like on my way out of here, out of this lane.
And had there not been a ward top lane, importantly, Ruin's teleport was still down. Yes, Mimics was as well, but now you've got the man overlap by there not being mid lane TPs from here. So you are actually having a 4v2. You're not having one of those funky 4v2s where 3 other people start showing up, the jungler comes in, and everybody's 5v5 at the end of it all. That would have actually been a fairly clean setup for that. But there was a ward. So.
Wards save lives. That's what we've learned so far. Taiki is going to be stepping up in this lane, but he was already seen by that ward. So, once again, SK have the setup. It's just like, okay, we're not winning this lane. We're very not winning this lane because still, at 10 minutes into this game, Gap has a massive CS lead on Vardags. But we can kind of not put a stop to the bleeding, but bleed less in this lane by warding.
Is that ward going to die before Ruin's TP is up? That is the question. There is one ward the observers just showed us in the back of the lane. It's about to die. Ruin's TP is up. 4G have pulled down into the river. There was a moment, but 4G had moved down and away from the opportunity, so there was the chance. You can see Graves just recalls out of the top side jungle. There was an opportunity. The moment passed. Did not expend the TP for SK. We've seen them make plays like that before and had it work for them.
The more I think about this Draven build as well, the more it makes sense, just with 4G's general game plan. Because yes, they like to go for the engages, yes, they like to trade a lot, but typically we're seeing very long games from them. Very, very long games from them. So we will see Gap just initially go for that late game build, and then he'll have the crit. Because I believe we've seen Gap actually just go for like an early mid game build and just sell all his items and go for like a late game one. Just when you just have enough gold to do so. So
man,
just stock up now.
This lead that they've got, though, I mean, very rare you see 120 CS to
He doesn't even need a cash in.
Like, he doesn't need a cash. Like, as soon as he cashes in,
yeah,
that's like Draven set for life. He won the lottery.
Look at that gold difference, Stress. 1,000 gold.
Before cash-ins. Before cash-ins. This is like Draven building like a solid gold swimming pool.
Yeah.
Or an idol to himself.
You know, those things sound great, but if you actually jumped into like a solid gold swimming pool,
no, the water's not gold.
Oh.
It's just the...
No, I'm thinking like the gold coins. You know, you make like a swimming pool out of like, you know, gold coins.
Oh, like Scrooge McDuck?
Exactly.
Yeah,
but then
maybe.
if you actually did that, then you die.
Draven would find a way, because, man, this lead is exceptional. It all stems from that early game. So we were contradicting, or we were, you know... questioning the execution, but it certainly has snowballed and, you know, rippled, or however... You know, whatever idiom you want to use to describe something getting bigger and bigger.
Probably
and bigger.
like, yeah, some fluffy quote out there is like the smallest ripple creates the biggest tidal wave or something like that. Something about that in top lane.
That's what's happening here.
Yeah, that's what's happening. There you go, the IKEA of idioms. Just make it yourself. There we go. We gave you the tools. We gave you the scenario. Go ahead and make it yourself. Suno and Jizuki. They're trading off at the mid lane. Jizuki, with the movement speed, is going to just straight up walk out of the gravity field. And Cesar was thinking about coming in there, but because he was playing towards the top side of the lane, Jizuki's just going to take the long way back to base.
Man, this is so painful, because Sivir can't afford to step forward even properly to clear the wave until it's at her tower, at which point you've already just seen the damage that Draven is doing to that tower. This is by far and away... Whoa, hang on. TP's coming out mid.
Flyke's coming in, flash away by Suno. Says it's not going to be so lucky. Going to have to use collateral damage to try and open some distance and flash away over the wall. So they both escape, but have to burn a bunch of resources.
That's frustrating for Mimic. TP's on the bottom side of the lane. Everybody just runs up and out. No real way of locking them down. Turret does fall in the top side, so 4G did just use their TP and get the TP from Ruin. And they may be able to just get this dragon as well. Ocean Drake has been spotted out that it started. Graves will be here by the time it falls. We might be in for a bit of a smite fight or a 3v2. You can see Maokai closing in. Yeah, okay, so I don't think this is actually going to be fought over. It's going to be attempted steal.
Well, SK are going to put a bit of damage onto it, but they need to save their resources to fight back against 4G. What is even happening here? Keeper's Verdict's going to knock Maokai out of the fight, and that will secure it for 4G. Second Ocean Dragon.
But this is the situation that we're finding ourselves in with different dragons. Ocean, you know, and Cloud pretty much are not worth dying over going to the other team. Like, Mountain is a little bit contentious. We're still not sure exactly on the timing. Infernal tends to be worth fighting over, and of course Elder. But for an Ocean like that, it's like, well, if we can get it, it'll be nice. I don't want to die for it. Let's not commit to this fully. And you see both teams kind of just back away when they don't think that they can take it. So certainly not worth having a game-losing fight over. No. Oh, it's the old Draven build, Pulse.
It is. We're back.
It's the flat AD Draven Bloodthirster.
So many people, when this build was a thing, was just like, this is not the most efficient build. You should go for crit. You should go for the multiplicative builds. And then it was just like, true Draven players, they knew. If you go Bloodthirster in lane, there is nothing that your lane opponent can do. Because your lane opponent hits you, you hit them back, and you've automatically won. Whirling Death comes out, stacks it with the AD, even more damage onto this mini-wave and Vardags's facial area. And he is not feeling very good in this game. Cesar's going to come down the lane as well and try and defend, but they're just losing towers left and right. Heaver's going to tank up the tower here. Tanky's going to have to back off. Good pillar coming out there by Unlimited will stymie that push while Vardags can take away this minion wave.
Oh, Heaver didn't quite block the boomerang blade on the way out, and it hit everybody on the way back as well. So was enough damage just to force 4G back for now, but you saw how much they've done to that tower again. And 4G right now are just compounding on their lead again and again with every play that they make. Even mid lane is now ahead. We've typically seen Victor do well into the Rise in the early game, but with just a couple of pieces of attention that have gone mid lane, Suno has had to fall back in lane a couple of times, concede over space to Jizuki, but it's SK making a push on for the bottom tower.
This is actually a really good rotation from SK Gaming. From a situation where they were losing tower after tower after tower as Draven just knocks more and more down, a good rotation from Suno will secure one in return. So actually 1-to-1 in towers, but that did expose mid lane, it did expose top lane, so Jizuki's going to get a bit of damage here as well.
Ruin,
he's going to TP, but that's a very easy disrupt from Mimic. I mean, he knew he was being chased. It was like, I sure hope Poppy forgets she has E, and then he just kind of TP'd and lost his summoner spell. So I'm not really sure what that was about. I guess that is the 70-30 play we were talking about.
I mean, that's a weird one. Oh, unlimited. He's okay.
He's okay. He's run out of ammo.
That's a weird one for the sense that with a Maokai, if you're the only one on the enemy team that has TP and somebody sees a TP on a turret they're standing by, they're going to be like, okay, I'm just going to run back a bit so I'm out of W range. And then you tie into the fact that Poppy's standing right next to the Maokai. I really don't know what that was about from Ruin. We sang his praises coming into this game. Yep. That one was a bit weird. Not a fan of that TP
We
usage.
are the 30% of plays that don't really make very much sense, but you can bet the rest of the plays will be good. This is very sneaky Rift Herald.
Now, if they give this to Mimic,
it should be.
Ruin basically can't sit in the solo lane anymore. It's real difficult to, did go over to Mimic just as the camera swapped off. Real difficult to stay in a lane as it is as a Maokai and just kind of sit there. You don't really have too much clear potential until it pushes under the turret. Now you got a Poppy that at any point can run up to you and just hit you for extra damage. So
it's very annoying to play against,
good luck
did
with
you know? And 20 minutes now from here on out, and especially if he's running the extra mastery, could be another 3 minutes on top of that as well. So have fun with that, Ruin. Yeah, it's very annoying, and usually, like, oh, it's fine, we'll just put the dual lane against it, but, like, gap is so massive right now with Hiva, there is no good lane matchup for SK to really put each other in. There's, like, you can't really juggle anything because both of the side lanes are just so strong.
And typically, you know, when you look at a kill score of 0-0 as we come towards 20 minutes, typically you're like, you know, no kill gold going over.
The action hasn't opened yet.
Only a couple of towers. You know, it may not be essentially low econ, but everybody maybe has a little bit less gold than you'd expect. But 4G, nothing low econ about this, because this Draven is farming up. He's sitting on his dividends. His bonds are about to come out. He's just waiting on that payout. As soon as the stock market rises, he's just going to be like, cash out, cash out.
1,500 gold at this point, and he still hasn't gotten a kill. How many stacks is he on? Almost 500.
Okay.
So he'll
still a long way off.
He is.
The record, the 1784, I think we had it at. Yeah.
How many stacks does that have to be? That because it was plus the kill gold, so it was like
the maths on that.
It was like 700, around 700 stacks. So he's not
Still
too
a way
far
to
up.
go.
That's like another 200, 250 stacks. So he could make it.
He could.
Oh, look at the damage onto Cesar.
Oh. Well, that's another tower going down. So 4G right now, you couldn't really make a better example of like some kind of a wage gap than on this this game. It's just like SK are playing at a deficit for the entire time, whereas 4G are basically just making bank off everything. They're getting dragons, they're getting towers. They got the Rift Herald. I mean, they've just got everything in this game without getting kills as well, which is the funny thing, because normally it takes a team to be very dominant in early skirmishes to get this kind of lead. This is purely kind of ripple affected just from that early game from 4G, plus some of the jungle, you know, movements that we've seen out of Taiki and some of the attempted TPs from Mimic.
I kind of just want to see Gap fight Vardax because he's like 2,000. He's got 2,000 gold on him.
I don't want to see it just because Vardax is going to get destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to see how much damage he does to him.
It's actually going to be like kind of a child versus like an MMA fighter. Like not a fight I would want to see.
He's a full item up on Vardax right now.
Third dragon of the game.
Third dragon. That was Infernal.
Infernal.
Yeah. Ocean Infernal.
Yep. Easy one today. That's it's only Sifa that gets confused.
That's
on
correct. We like to do alchemy with me and Vedius, so we decide like what they combine into.
make.
Correct. So, you know, if you had like ocean and 2 mountains, that would be like a waterfall.
Okay.
If you had like 2 oceans and a mountain, that might be like an island, for example.
See, I was always thinking that would be like the Mariana Trench.
Oh, okay.
Like the underwater mountain range.
Just depends on what you were feeling on the day.
I said that back.
Ooh, Heaver. He's got to get out of that Chaos Storm real fast because one more tick will kill him. He's going to have to flash away. Gap will send out the Whirling Death, and that almost finished off Vardags in the back as well.
Oh, and this is the danger here, is 4G didn't commit with Mimic to the bottom side, so they didn't have the numbers there. SK have this team fighting composition, could have looked to have gone aggressive. Got a good start to the fight, but couldn't quite pick up Heaver. And 4G managed to back themselves away down the lane and keep Heaver barely alive. Gap had to use his heal, Heaver had to use his flash, but still, they live another day.
Here is your minutely Draven stat count. He is at 550 now, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice.
He is around 200, 150 away from getting the biggest cash-in of all time.
Okay, well, I'm waiting for that moment.
Me too, because we did surpass the record here on Challenge.
We did.
That was the record.
Again.
So Gap is looking for it.
As I was saying about the trench the other day in production, I said the Marinara Trench, and I'm like, oh, that's a source. That's not the same. But for 4G right now, they have opened a massive, maybe under Ocean Trench when it comes to the goal difference between 4G. They do have 2 Ocean Drakes, so it was under the guise of it.
That is true. Well, Gap, he's picked up currently the Bloodthirster, as we spoke about before, but there's the Ghostblade also being activated this time, just to rotate to the top lane. As Ruin, he is very far pushed out, and with Heaver coming in, he might be able to get the lockdown here. Limit is going to try and save him with a pillar onto Gap. Says is also into the fight, but everyone's going to converge on top lane. Surely someone must die in this one. Ruin's going to try and protect Elise, or rather Graves, as he collateral damages out. Draven comes in for the catch-in. Over to Gap, 2-0 for 4G.
I saw the first 2 digits of the cash-in. 12 was the first 2, so just over 1,200 gold additional onto that Draven. Now puts him, after cash-in, 4,000 gold ahead of Vardags individually.
Yeah, he has got over 10,000 gold. A quarter of the team's gold. And now he's on to Baron itself. This is dropping so quickly. Look at the damage coming out in there from Draven. And Unlimited Vardags will back away. There you can say almost at 11,000 gold on Draven at 23 minutes into this game. There's a straight Phantom Dancer just picked up by Gap. That is not a cheap item.
No, and it's also just going to basically help him compound this lead even more. Now he... anybody that gets on him, as soon as that Maokai comes through, he's going to be able to hit the Maokai. Maokai is still going to take damage because, as of yet, only has 1 armor item, so
that's not going to save him.
It's not going to save him from the Draven. So this is how they engage this. Onto the Maokai, and I mean, it's another situation where 4G, they're attacking the TP here, and SK actually did manage to group up for this as well, so they have their 5-man stack, but Mimic TPs just in time, is able to close the distance between the numbers at least, and from here we can see Gap picking up the first kill. There was a second kill on the top side of the fight on Suno as well. That one went over to Rise, so if ever there was a better set of 2 people to get the kills in that, one going to Rise, one going to Draven, couldn't have gone too much better.
Pretty much perfect. Jizuki was also the 1-man army in that fight. He was just running at 4 people and they were all running away from him, while the rest of the team dealt with the 2 guys on the bot side.
And that's the thing, is Jizuki hasn't been punished. He's even managed to open himself up a massive CS advantage to the point where he has the Guardian Angel finished at 25 minutes on this Rise. 3-item Rise with almost no real way of dealing with it on the side of SK, the later this game goes, is terrifying.
I mean, it's such a weird game because you never really see a two-kill game at 25 minutes result in a 10,000 gold lead with all of the gold situated on the carries. Like, that just doesn't usually happen, but the way this one has worked out, they are massive. Mid towers are going to be crumbling here. They still have the Baron buff. They've got the buffing, the buffs up from the Dragon. 3 dragons over to them. And I was kind of wondering where Gap was going to go with his build because there was a freeze build a little while ago where you would go for rapid fire cannon as your crit item, so you can get the long range auto attack as kind of like this semi poke, and then you just run away. And they are definitely not running away from this fight. Unlimited is already out of here. He gets blasted down. Suno going to call out of his own ultimate, but it's not quite enough to find a kill just yet. Ruin is going to bring down the Vengeful Maelstrom as Jizuki comes in from the bot, looking for a snare to come down, but the Respect Flash out from Vardax will keep him alive. One kill on this fight, and that goes over to 4G, but momentum definitely still in their favor.
Just again, man, everything is going 4G's way. A lot used onto Hiva, but he stays alive, manages to shield out a lot of things. This time didn't even have to use the summoners they did last time to keep him alive. 4G will have to back away. Team Forge in dominating control right now when you look at it. Fights are just consistently going their way, and even if they're not getting multiple kills, they're pushing people back. They're pushing SK back to further objectives. They're fighting the tower at the same time they're fighting SK for the first couple of seconds this fight. And yes, Ruin still is fairly tanky. He is ahead when it comes to CS and does have a decent set of items, but he's the only one on SK that has that. He's the only one that you can say can even take these kind of fights. And against a Ryze, the Draven, who is already 3 items building towards his next item, is just too much for him to hold on to. He'll stay alive, but he won't do anything meaningful in these fights on his own.
No, he will not. And SK just got crushed this game in a very low kill game, which is funny when you usually look at Team Forge with Hiva, but the way that the laning phase needed to go, there was nothing that SK could really do. Like, coming back into it, like, the duo lane was not going to catch up. The solo lane got behind, and then you compounded the issue with a Rift Herald, and then it's just like, well, I'm not going to fight him because I'm going to lose, so I might as well just carry on as normal, and he didn't try and make any proactive plays to try and upset that balance.
And you know, now Jizuki is level 16, 2 levels up on Suno and the highest level in the game. It means he just has such a low cooldown on that ult that he just pops it and runs at anybody that's out of position, and oh, lo and behold, it's back up halfway through the fight again, and I can just ult again and ult again, and suddenly everybody dies. Hiva again into 3 people, takes half his health, survives. The rest of the team are busy at the same time, taking other objectives, pushing other lanes. This game is 4G's right now. There should be no world in which they lose from this kind of advantage.
Not really, but this is a best of 5 series, so SK still have the chance to come back. But just judging from this game, how Team Forge are able to recognize how little they have in the early game and then ripple that into the mid game, and we're not even going to reach late game, and just know that they can keep doing what they're doing and not have to go for aggressive plays is really impressive to me.
And I like SK's comp. There is no real inherent issue with their comp, just how the early game played out and how it has now prevented their comp from actually working, because with a teamfight comp, if you stop them from being able to fight by taking early advantages, then they really can't afford to group too well, and that is exactly what has happened here. Is by the time SK actually were like, okay, let's fight as 5, they're like, oh, we're basically a whole item behind on our carries, and we actually can't afford to do it. So SK could very well load up into the second game and have the same composition and actually pull it off, and it works. But this game just has not gone their way from the very beginning.
I agree. There's nothing wrong with the composition here. It's just kind of, I don't know what they're playing, like Duck Hunt over the wall. There's like constantly throwing these wards over, and then SK is shooting them down. I don't really know what was going on there. But Team Forge are going to go back to base and pick up even more items. Probably, yeah, you really hit the nail on the head. SK Gaming, if they go for that 5-on-5 fight that they really want with this composition, they're just gonna die. Like, Jizuki and Gap are so strong right now, and you can't even kill Jizuki straight up because he's got Guardian Angel. Gap is actually kind of tanky with his Phantom Dancer, so as soon as someone jumps on him, gonna reduce the damage, and they're probably already dead. Because Draven, actually, let's see how much damage he does to this red buff. Well, he just hit that minion for 900 damage. Yeah, quite a lot of damage. So, Gap, very, very strong.
Now, there is the... I mean, this isn't even being optimistic. I'm just kind of highlighting the fact that, you know, we talked about how Draven needs to keep going forward with his build, keep expanding. He has been doing that, so he's still very much so powerful at 30 minutes. If SK can deny 4G any kind of objective, speaking of Baron as it spawns, there is the minuscule hope. But honestly, Forge can afford to take the fight to SK at this point. They'll just dare them to come towards that Baron, because as soon as they catch one person out, either Mimic takes part of the base and basically gives them enough to win the game, or they win a fight and win the game. So for SK, the only hope is that Forge slow down. And honestly, by the way, Forge have been moving around the map, taking bottom lane turrets, you know, trading objectives constantly. I don't see them slowing down now.
Not really. And because this is a series, SK Gaming, honestly, the best choice and the best course of action is just to look at the rest of the series and be like, okay, what went wrong here? Because honestly, it wasn't from the composition. It wasn't from champion select. That was fine. It was just how the early game went for them, how they executed on that, and how they weren't able to make any real plays. And also the fact that the lanes kind of lost naturally is a big issue. Nothing that Cesar can really do about it, but he's got a long-range support coming out from Gap, and somehow this is working out, and Gap bodies Vardags and Unlimited. There is nothing they can do, and that's a defensive ult from Cesar. Heaver is still somehow alive. Rumour's gonna utilize everything on him, and Suno, he's wandering back and forth, but he doesn't find an exit plan. He'll go down 3-1, and Gap is quite happy to murder anything in front of him.
The ridiculous amount of confidence. Forge know they have this game won as soon as that Baron is over. So Draven flashes over the back of Baron Pit to get himself into a fight. There's only one death on the side of Forge, and it was right at the end from a very over-aggressive set of plays, but it doesn't even matter. Forge are going to take game one of this series.
They'll take down the second Nexus turret, and SK Gaming are just trying to defend, but it's just easy kills for Gap at this point, padding his scoreline. Game one goes to 4G.
Wow. That was, I mean, I used the analogy of an MMA fighter and a child, just in case there was a 1v1, but that's what that game actually kind of
between
felt
the teams,
like.
yeah.
I mean, I'll put it in perspective. What was the difference at the end of the game was, by the looks of it, 17k between the two. Between the 80 carries, Draven had 17k total gold, and Vardags had under 10. So
Big
like
difference.
a 7,500 gold lead on the 80 carries in that game.
I think we need a new term. It's like the gap horizon.
Horizon.
Because, yeah, the gap between those two AD carriers was enormous. Like, that is just absurd. Like, I've never seen really like an AD carry and support get wrecked that hard in lane.
Man, I feel like SK are taking the London Underground right now because they have to mind the gap in the next game.
That's good.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Don't say that's good on that post.
It's humor that I appreciate and no one else does. But no, SK Gaming, they just need to try something. Like, they just need to execute better, I guess. But like, if your lanes are just gonna continuously lose straight up, like I don't know what you do as a team. Like, do you throw a curveball at them in champion select or what?
Honestly, I would love, and I'm actually going to do it after the series is done, probably at some point. I want to go back and actually take a look at mid lane even more, because I don't know how that ended up quite that bad as well. Both lanes falling super far behind.
That's true. We were fucking so hard on the Draven's like, what's his catch-in going to be? What's his catch-in? And then, somehow Jizuki just comes out of mid lane level 16 and just like shooting lasers everywhere and killing everyone. So I just don't know. We need to check on that one. But we are going to take a quick break as we set up for game 2. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this. Limiter's going to try and save him with the pillar onto Gap. Cesar's also into the fight, but everyone's going to converge on top lane. Surely someone must die in this one. Ruin's going to try and protect Elise, or rather Graves, as he collateral damages out. Draven comes in for the catch-in. Over to Gap, 2-0. Also, the fact that the lane's kind of lost naturally is a big issue. Nothing that Cesar can really do about it, but he's got a long-range support coming out from Gap, and somehow this is working out, and Gap bodies Vardags and Unlimited. There is nothing they can do.